Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tom Suter. I am the founder of the Advanced Technology Academic Research Center, and I have the pleasure today of moderating this discussion. And today we're going to be talking about the 21st Century Idea Act, leveraging modernization to deliver a digital-first public experience. This has been a topic I've cared about since it came out. I thought it was one of the best pieces of legislation that passed in our industry. Wildly supportive of it. I'd like to welcome all the attendees. Special thanks to Alex Snyder, Carol Lambert, and everyone at GSA and OMB for making this happen. Really excited to be doing this. So we're going to hear from our keynote, then we're going to hear from our panelists, and we're going to have a Q&A session. If at any point you want to ask a question, I'll try to fit it in. We're also going to do a few poll questions, and it's part of our CPE program that you answer the poll questions, so please answer those. And if you need a CPE credit at the end, just let our team know. We're going to kick things off. We were going to work with Claire Montarana, but she was sick, unfortunately, and she wasn't feeling very well. But we've got Jonathan Finch, who is the acting director of digital experience over at the White House. And Jonathan has been doing this for the digital experience. He helped draft this document, government-wide implementation of OMB's flagship policy on delivering a digital-first experience. He also is working with the presidential management agenda. This is very, very high on the list, I know, from the PMA. And he's been in public and private sector. He's worked for a couple of different consulting companies. And welcome, Jonathan. I'm looking forward to hearing your comments.
Well, thanks, Tom. Appreciate the introduction, and to you and the team for the invitation to speak today. And again, I'll just express, Claire was very, very excited to join this group. I know she's done a number of different events with you in the past, so she sends her regards, but excited to be here in her stead, talking about 21st Century Idea, talking about our office's recent guidance on digital experience, and then, of course, the Technology Modernization Fund and how all of these different efforts come together to really help us realize the vision of a digital-first public experience. So with that, let's go ahead and jump in and flip to the next slide, please. Okay, so let me start a little bit with the why here. And if you've heard Claire or others from the administration, talk about this, they'll say that the American people deserve a digital government. So what does that mean? And why is that so important? Each and every year, the federal government provides information and services to more than 400 million individuals, families, businesses, and organizations. And what that translates to is each and every day, millions of folks are interacting with the government, accessing vital services, and in particular, they're doing so during really critical and important moments in their lives. And now the default method for these interactions is digital. And so that's why our team is so hyper-focused on driving change in this space and really helping the federal enterprise meet the public's expectations. And simply put, the public expects that their interactions with government online are consistent with interactions they have with their favorite consumer websites, their favorite consumer apps in their everyday lives. So that's what we're working towards. When we talk about the law and the foundation that 21st Century Idea set, when we talk about the guidance that recently came from our office, and when we talk about how things like the TMF can help us deliver and really accelerate delivery in this space. Next slide, please. All right, and then just one more. All right, so from day one of this administration, we've been really focused on delivering a government that works for everyone. And if you've heard Claire speak publicly, if you've heard other members of the administration speak publicly on customer experience or digital experience, you've likely heard us talk about delivering experiences that are simple, seamless, and secure. And I just want to talk a little bit about how we think about that and what each of these means. So starting with simple, the key here is that the public has to know when they are interacting with an official source of government information or an official government service online. They need to be able to trust in that action and trust that they're getting authoritative information. Let's bring up seamless. Seamless. So here we're talking about that the public has to be able to interact both within a given agency's website, across websites, and even potentially with third-party apps in a seamless manner. For so many of the services that the federal government provides, members of the public are bouncing across agencies to get answers to their questions, to get access to a service or benefit. And so it's really important that we are collectively delivering a seamless experience across all of those interactions. And let's bring up secure. And then lastly, secure is table stakes. We can't improve digital experience. We can't deliver more and better digital experiences unless we do so securely. So our office, while we are continually pushing the envelope on digital experience, we're also really cognizant of what we need to do in the cybersecurity realm to ensure that all of these services are delivered to the public in a secure manner. Next slide, please. All right, so a lot to this one. Let me kind of walk through a couple different things here. So as hopefully most of the folks on this call are aware, in September of last year, our office took a big step towards realizing this vision of simple, of seamless, of secure by releasing guidance to federal agencies on delivering a digital first public experience. Also known as M2322, the formal OMB memorandum name. And this guidance in many ways built upon the foundation that Congress set in the 21st Century Integrated Digital Experience Act. So the intent of this guidance was to build and also help federal agencies implement the foundation and the requirements that Congress initially set in the law. And we're continuing to work very closely with our agency partners to address each and every one of the pillars that this guidance outlines. And so I just want to take a few moments to talk about each of the 7 pillars that you see here. So first, analytics. We're focused on analytics because you can't manage what you can't measure. And in order to better optimize digital experiences, we need better analytics. We're also really focused on accessibility because we as a government, we've got an obligation to ensure that information and services are accessible to all individuals. Full stop. That is an obligation, and we have to meet it. Brand. Through the use of brand, we're really thinking about how can we establish greater trust for digital interactions with government. Content. By cleaning up and by improving content, the goal here is that we can ensure that the public gets the answers they need as simply as possible in as few clicks as possible. And then design. This is the kind of a key part of that seamless vision that I talked about. We want to make it easier to navigate government websites, and we want there to be a more consistent visual design when members of the public are moving across different agency websites. Search, so that the majority of the public gets to government information and services through third-party search engines. And so by adopting search best practices, we are making it easier for folks to find the information that they're looking for and to get answers to the questions that they have. And then lastly, through digitization, we're continuing to push on this, and we're continuing to try to take steps to make it easier for the public to access services using whatever their preferred medium may be. And so that is an attempt on our part to boil down what is a robust policy document into kind of the critical pillars, or you could think of it as the components of what it takes to deliver a digital first public experience. And so I've talked a lot about what this means for our agency partners. Let me also just talk a little bit about what this means for our industry partners. So this guidance is your 10-year revenue roadmap. It outlines the requirements that your agency customers must meet. And it outlines the opportunities for you to support them in their modernization journeys. And so, this isn't, just about what agencies have to do or what industry can bring to the table. It really is about how can we come together to collectively take steps to realize this vision of a simple, a seamless, and secure public experience. Next slide, please. All right, so now to the kind of topic of today's conversation, and I know we've got a fantastic panel coming up after us, so I'll try not to steal too much of that group's thunder. But we know this work will take time. That being said, the public expects results now, and so our approach has been very much to parallel path planning for the future with also taking action and tackling low-hanging fruit today. And that's where something like the Technology Modernization Fund, TMF, can play such a critical role. So I'll just highlight a couple key things here. So first, 2022, we announced an allocation of $100 million to deliver a secure, modern, digital-first government experience for the American people. And so we've allocated funds specifically to help agencies address this topic. And then most recently, in last year, a little bit before our guidance came out, the team worked to offer a streamlined application process for projects specifically aimed at implementing the requirements and recommendations of 21st century IDEA. And so together, the dedicated funding, the streamlined process, it really does position the TMF as a critical tool to help agencies accelerate the delivery of their digital experience projects. All right, so let's just hop to the last slide, and I'll just offer kind of some brief closing remarks. And first off, just saying thank you. So, thank you for your interest in this topic, for the work that you've done, for the work that you continue to do. And again, I'll just emphasize from our perspective, from the administration's perspective, this really does need to be an all-encompassing effort. Our industry partners, our agency delivery teams, cross-government initiatives like TMF, we each have a critical role to play here. And when we come together, that's really when we unlock the ability to deliver better digital experiences. And ultimately, meet the expectations that the public does have for us. So again, thank you. I'm hoping that this was kind of a helpful teaser. Really excited for what the panel will offer and be able to expand on. And with that, Tom, I'll kick it back to you, and then happy to address questions from folks with whatever time we have left.
Well, we actually got a question from somebody who used to work in your building over there. I won't mention
Okay.
who it is. I typically don't, but they had the same question I did. I think the way you broke it down is fantastic. I think the biggest challenge, I don't know if you agree with me, but the seamless experience when you go across agencies, that is the hard one that it's difficult to do. What have you tried to do that was different than maybe other people have tried in the past?
Yeah, certainly. And I think there's a couple different ways that we're thinking about this. I think one, we are actively working with colleagues at GSA, at other implementation partners, to think about where is there an opportunity to build some type of shared service or shared product that agencies can deploy. So US Web Design System is a fantastic opportunity of a tool that agencies can use to help deliver a more consistent appearance on their sites, which we know helps with the public as they are interacting across those sites. So, on one angle, we're thinking about what can we do from a shared resource perspective. And then likewise, I think the other thing that we are actively trying to figure out is, where do things need to be standardized versus where do we need to have, flexibility for agencies to design content and services in a way that best meets their mission. And so, we are actively in talks with folks about where do we want to draw that line, and where is it helpful from our perspective to push for that standardization.
Yes, and it wouldn't be a webinar if we didn't talk about artificial intelligence and GovGBT. You knew it was coming. How do we incorporate that responsibly, and what do you for the customer experience? I think there's a lot of potential there, but it's like some dangers too at the same time, right?
Sure. So, AI feels like the topic of the week, perhaps the topic of the year at this point, and certainly, a lot of work from our office on that in terms of the EO and the draft memo. I think that there's certainly an opportunity to use AI in places to help with the customer experience, to make it easier for folks to get answers to their questions. So, we are actively exploring and trying to work with agencies to think through what are the right uses of AI in that sense. I think the other thing that we're cognizant of is that as folks do use AI tools to try to get answers to information, it's that much more important that we're taking steps to help folks think through or to help folks know, when is it authoritative information? And I think that's the part that we're really focused on is, when the public uses a tool to get an answer, we want them to be confident that is the right answer for them, especially when it's about accessing a government service or a government benefit. So it's really, I think the key there is, how do we ensure when the public uses these tools that they feel confident about the answers and the information that they're getting back?
Right. And I know you've had a bucket that you've allocated to basically 21st century idea. I know you've gotten some submissions in the last, I know there's a push toward the end of the year. What kind of submissions are getting, and what kind of variety is there, and what are size awards? There's a question in the comment: do we do small ones? Do we do the monster awards? What's your thought process there from the White House?
I'll probably let the TMF team talk a little bit more about the size of the awards, but I'll just say, I think one area that we are seeing a lot of interest in, and I think it's manifesting in what agencies are coming to TMF with, is the accessibility piece. Our office also put out, in addition to the guidance related to 21st Century IDEA, we put out a memo in December about strengthening digital accessibility. And so we're doubling down there. We believe very strongly that you can't improve digital experiences if they're not made in an accessible fashion. And so I think we are signaling the focus there. And I think agencies are starting to respond. And I know that I think a lot of the conversations that the TMF team has had with agencies has been around how can they take steps to improve accessibility. And we're excited by that. That is a foundational piece to the bigger picture here.
Yeah, I think so. You had some interesting things in there, like a test lab to test the websites for 508. I really like that idea in that order. Anything else to close up?
No, again, I would just say,
next for you. How about you now that us to this point? What are you working on next? What are you doing in the lab?
Yeah, I mean, it's not we're not coming out with any new additional memo anytime soon, but I think the focus really is about how do we best support agencies in their implementation journeys. If you've heard Claire speak on this, she's probably said that this is a 10-year journey, and we mean that, right? That this is work that is going to take time and years to really fulfill the full vision that we've laid out. And so right now we're really focused on helping agencies take steps to plan for the future. Sometimes as simple as, let's figure out what is today's baseline of our universe of websites. Let's get that sorted, and then let's figure out how we want to measure against them. Let's figure out what types of internal governance structures we might need to to drive change on this topic. So that is where our team spending a lot of our effort is just making sure that we're thoughtful about, the memo came out last September, the first 6 months. Let's be thoughtful about taking steps that build the foundation that hopefully will allow agencies to deliver on this year, next year, and for the foreseeable future to come. So that's where we're at. Probably not as exciting as coming out with some new memo or EO, but I think we feel strongly that this is the time to dig in and to lay that foundation.
Yeah, time to implement. Thank you,
Right.
John. This has been great. I've learned a lot, and appreciate your time. Hope Claire gets better. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom.
Great. That was Jonathan Finch, Acting Director of Digital Experience over at OMB. And before we're about ready to charge into our panel, everybody's ready to rock and roll with it. But one little quick announcement. We have with us Larry Bufundo. He has been recently, very, very, very recently named GSA's Technology Modernization Fund Deputy Executive Director and Acting Executive Director as of January 16th. So Larry, I know you're drinking out of the fire hose, but so his background, he's a technologist, complex digital initiatives across the private and public sectors. Recently, he was at the Department of Labor to modernize the nation's unemployment insurance systems. And we have also Jessie, who's on our panel. She's TMF's previous acting director. She's going to be on our panel. She will still serve in a leadership capacity, including today. With the TMF is its customer experience portfolio director. Welcome, Larry. Welcome. I know you're drinking out of the firehouse. It's like day, what, 5? I just have to ask you, why did you take this job? What was appealing about this job to you? Not to put you on the spot or anything.
But you definitely did. But
Yeah.
no problem. No, I think that the work at TMF is very similar to the work that we were doing at Department of Labor, but just with states and in one particular domain, which is unemployment insurance. And I think we learned a lot. In particular, this idea that states and various agencies have different views of what modernization actually is and what that journey entails. And funding can be a lever that helps remove some of the constraints that agencies face. But we also know it's not a silver bullet. So I think it's a really unique opportunity and a really unique role that the TMF can play in helping to support some of these government-wide efforts.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service and look forward to hearing more from you in the future. Thank you, Larry. Now I'm going to introduce our panelists, and I would like you to give a wave when I call your name. We have the aforementioned Jessie Poulos, losing my pronunciation here, Posilkin, Customer Experience Portfolio Director at the Technology Modernization Fund at U.S. General Services. Hello, Jessie. Next, we have Rachel Sauter, who is Technical Investment Manager, Technology Modernization Fund at United States General Services Administration. And then last, but certainly not least, we have Kevin Hoffman, Director of Design, User Experience of the Office of the CTO's Community Practice at the Veterans Affairs. And I think, Kevin, you might be a musician when you're hanging guitars. I'm figuring you play those in your spare time.
I will if Rachel does.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Oh, Rachel too. What am I saying? Yes. Wow. I guess to work on the Technology Modernization Fund, you got to be a musician. All right. Anyway, we're going to start off with Jessie to open us up.
Yeah, sure. Hi, all. Nice to see some familiar faces on that attendee list. As Tom shared, I'm Jessie Posilkin. I lead the customer experience portfolio here, and over the past couple of months have been the acting executive director of the TMF. So happy, really, really, really thrilled for many reasons to pass that over to Larry now. So yeah, psyched for Larry to be on board. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the TMF. My sense looking is that most of you are pretty familiar broadly with it. And then Rachel can dig into some of our 21st century idea work. But yeah, as I think a lot of you know, and Jonathan prefaced for us, the TMF is an innovative investment program transforming the way that agencies deliver accessible, secure, and people-first services to the American public. We're in our 6th year of investing in IT modernization projects. So this has gone from being a little baby to starting to be in elementary school now, I guess. And our team similarly has grown correspondingly, of starting originally many years ago with just 3 staff to now being a fully staffed team to support our agencies, both as they work on proposals and have our actual investment dollars to do incremental investment. We do incremental investment, they can do incremental work, and using that kind of multi-year investment to support iterative and agile processes. It's been just a real delight to get to invest in teams that are designing with users, learning how to design with users, and ship products and services in a shorter time frame. We know that agencies that have not had the opportunity to work in this way can, when they're given the right tools and support and executive buy-in to do so. So it's been really great to have the leadership support at GSA and from Claire and others at OMB that this is a priority and important for agencies to challenge some of the ways that they've been working historically. So I think the only other thing, a couple of things I just want to cover is that I come to this work sort of similar to Larry and others on the phone. I care about technology, and as much as I care about providing really good services to the American people and non-American people that we also serve, right? Like that is the point, and software is, other people may love the internet and software building and development, and to me, it is but a tool to actually deliver the services that we care about. And so the way that we have been focusing on our investments are both looking at some of the ways that has to happen. Even our cybersecurity investments, it's not sort of interesting on its own to secure a data set. It's really interesting when you think about the, thousands, tens of thousands, or millions of people behind those various data sets whose information is really sensitive and who could be compromised by a breach. So I just say that to bring in that sometimes customer experience work, 21st century idea, and cybersecurity work that is definitely a priority for lots of folks on the Hill are viewed as potentially in tension. And while there are some pieces of that, ideally, those should not be in tension because done well, where you see like really good user design, really accessible services, those should be easier for people to submit just the right amount of information. So we're not hoarding sensitive information that we don't need to have, as an example. So that feels really important. And I want to be clear as something that we feel very strongly about here at the TMF, and in particular with some of our investments. So it's been a delight to get to know Kevin through this work and get to watch the VA build out their services. With that, I will pass it over to Rachel to talk about some of the ways that the TMF itself has been looking at 21st century idea work.
Thanks, Jesse, and thanks everyone for having me here. So Jonathan talked to you about the White House efforts to provide some guidance on 21st century IDEA, and the TMF PMO partnered with the White House. We announced back in August 2023 that our board would be seeking proposals for projects aimed at implementing the 21st century IDEA. This was a new streamlined process with sample project plans that was made available for projects that both meet the TMF criteria and are aimed at implementing 2 specific areas of the Act. Those were improving the accessibility of websites and digitizing paper and PDF forms. While TMF would always work with agencies requesting funding for any project related to 21st century IDEA, we chose those areas in particular because they felt like projects that agencies could tackle with an infusion of funds, whereas other areas of the Act may require more extensive planning and policy decision-making. Those 2 focus areas were also really appealing to us because we could easily identify different phases of the work. So for example, some agencies might already have a form digitization project underway and just need additional funding to accelerate the work, while other agencies might be at the very early stages and need funding for discovery work so they can prioritize the first batch of forms that need digitization. While we can't talk about proposals that have not been publicly announced yet, some of the investments we have made that aim at addressing some of the 21st century idea components are the Office of Personnel Management, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and the Bureau of Land Management. This announcement sought to sharpen that work by helping more federal agencies improve information access and customer experience for all our users. The 21st century idea makes it clear that government technology and websites can and must work better for all the people we serve. And the TMF PMO has extensive experience in helping agencies do just that. We're really thrilled to offer these innovative funding pathways for agencies to better meet the needs of the public faster. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin Hoffman to speak more about his work at VA.
Thanks, Rachel. And thank you, Tom. I want to say how grateful I am for the invite to chat with you and the group here, and how grateful the VA is for the Technology Modernization Fund for this investment in improving VA customer experiences. VA customers, and really all government customers, they're expecting more personalization in their digital self-service interactions, especially when they've signed in, they've proven who they are securely, and they've provided other information to VA in previous customer interactions. Customers are also using more and more complex data to make decisions about their benefits provided by the VA, both directly as they make their own decisions, but also indirectly as that data supports VA staff in making decisions related to those benefits. So VA wants to rise to meet those expectations by improving what we consider to be one of those core components of digital self-service experiences, and the focus area that Rachel talked about, forms, specifically web forms and the personalized content around those forms. So the TMF investment, it's going to help us supercharge three really closely related efforts tied to forms. First, it's going to allow us to build, test with users and improve forms a lot faster. And make improvements to the 100+ forms that are already on va.gov at scale, rather than working on those things one at a time. Second, it's going to make it easier for us to integrate common personalized patterns across the digital customer experience, so that when things are personalized for a customer, it's done consistently. A good example of this would be secure messaging. At VA, because we're a healthcare provider, as well as providing a lot of non-health benefits, there are all kinds of examples of where secure messaging really done inconsistently could be a horrible customer experience, and we don't want that to happen. Our third area of focus is data visualization, particularly for those involved in making clinical decisions. For example, if I'm a clinician or a doctor working at VA, and I'm looking at data about my patients in order to make the best care decisions, I want the software that I use to be consistent, and I want that data to be presented in a way that's focused on veteran outcomes, but also meets the requirements of 21st century IDEA and Section 508 accessibility. And a lot of commercial off-the-shelf software products simply don't meet those requirements. That's where this investment is really going to help us. At VA, we both want to honor the letter of 21st century IDEA, which is mainly to use the US web design system, and the spirit of the law, which is to provide VA customers with exceptional modern digital customer experiences that are consistent with the interactions, both that they have with different parts of our agency, and to the point of 21st century IDEA in your question earlier, other agencies. So for us, it's two big improvements. One, we're going to be working really closely with the folks at the US web design system in developing and testing new patterns and new designs that they haven't built yet, and sharing those patterns for use by other federal agencies trying to provide similar experiences. This is establishing a working relationship between our agency, where we have a front line with customers, and the standards that are intended to support them as covered in 21st century IDEA and the associated M2322 guidance. And second, we're moving into more internal facing products, especially in the healthcare space at VA. and enabling those same modernized digital customer experiences for federal employees using the same set of tools prescribed by 21st Century IDEA. For us, the return on investment that we're hoping for are twofold, in that we expect to see both customer improvements as well as business improvements. As an agency, we hope to continuously reduce the time and cost associated with building and improving forms by making them more consistent and by approaching them at scale across our enterprise from a software perspective. But for the customer, we're looking at just reducing burden hours and reducing their effort by using information they've already provided to create a more seamless experience. Like, you don't have to tell us your home address every time you fill out a form. You just need to tell us if it's changed. And overall, just reducing burden hours in filling out forms and making decisions about VA benefits by making personalized information more usable, accessible, and consistent. So the customer feels like they're having a single seamless interaction with VA.
Yeah, very interesting. It seems like the Business Week predicted the paperless office in 1976. We still haven't gotten there. So obviously there's more than just the technologies there. We're operating paperless. It's just the workflows and that type of thing. How do you get your organization to change a little bit? The workflows are different. You know, people analyzing the forms, right? You know, what are some of the challenges you have to do besides just pure play, find and replace technology with paper?
I think, and I can't speak for all of VA, but I can speak for the work we're doing around this investment. First, really starting with what, from a back-end perspective is standardized, and then building on top of that and making that an agency-wide requirement. Right now, we're doing work, and this is at a very granular level, to standardize how we talk about race, ethnicity, and gender. And, you know, working with OMB guidance, creating a standard in the back end, and then making sure all our forms present that consistently. And that's a conversation between our component agencies, our digital experience folks, and the folks at 21st Century IDEA.
That's fantastic. Jesse or Rachel, like when people are submitting these, you can't just say, hey, here's the vendor, here where we're going to place. How are these plans? How well thought out are they to handle the culture really of, like, people were handling paper forms, now they're going to handle digital forms. How does that work in real life when agencies are submitting these proposals?
So one of the, I bet Rachel has more up-to-date examples. One of the ones that I think of often are our friends over at the Department of Labor, and some investments we have there, where they really invested, frankly, prior to coming to the TMF, in some of that shift to improving the paperwork. Like, if the paper forms have to exist, they also need to be better. And moving from a 20-page paper form to a 2-page paper form sure changes the kind of digitization work that you're doing, because that's a totally different kind of data collection and process to stub out, and also meant it was much easier for them to get to production because it's just a totally different level of complexity. So that's an example where they did some of that work before they came to us, because they knew they had to, and that was policy work that had to happen internally before they could really think about where technology came into play. But that's not always the case. And Rachel, I see you nodding, so go ahead. You have others.
Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, nothing much to add there. Just that I completely agree that there's a lot of policy conversations that need to happen both internally and with OMB. But it can be a really good moment to take a look at those policy questions, especially when it can improve digital experiences for the people we serve, like reducing the number of forms that an agency has in circulation, so there's not as much confusion about which form do I fill out. And we find that once those policy questions get answered, the technology part is much easier. I'm hesitant to say it's simply easy, but it's a lot easier once all those questions have been answered.
Great. Well, I can afford, I don't want to get in trouble with the White House. I don't want to get in trouble with GSA. I definitely don't want to get in trouble with our CPE people. So I have to ask some of our poll questions, and I'm going to go ahead and get them going here. Can I get the first poll question? All right, there we go. In your view, how does the 21st century idea shape the focus of the TMF, and what impact does it have on the proposal call for specific projects? All right. Let's see what we have. We usually start off. Okay. Interesting. Let's go to the next one too. How do you believe the TMF can effectively address the challenge of keeping up with a fast pace of changing technologies in federal agencies? All right. We got it. There you go. We'll keep that going there. And then the last one is, go ahead, put that up. In your opinion, what should be the top priority for government IT modernization efforts to enhance the overall digital experience for the American public? All right, we'll see what the audience says. There you go. It almost reflects that's probably the most interesting response, right? It's all over the board. So
maybe Tom, they're not in conflict with one another at all.
Right. Well, that's interesting. So a lot of questions, some good ones. I'm going to get to them. I have one question. As I travel around, I meet with CIOs and program managers. It's like, well, we need the money. They always complain, I don't have enough money. And I said, well, why don't you use the TMF? And the first thing they almost always say is the reporting. I'm going to have to report. And I'd rather go to my dentist and get a root canal than report. I'm just wondering how you, like Kevin, you're a customer, right? You've gotten this money. What is the reporting requirement? Is it kind of built into the project? Is cost doing business? How does that really work? And then I'd love to hear Jesse and Rachel too.
Yeah, this is our second TMF effort. Our first TMF effort was around identity and authentication. And we're deep into that effort, and I think it's going pretty well. And we've been through some rounds of reporting with that effort. And we, as a part of our proposal, submitted really the format and milestones that we believed would be the best ones for us to report on as a process of doing that kind of reporting. And so, to TMF's credit in this round of funding related to customer experience and 21st century idea, I really felt like the proposal process did a great job of helping us craft accountability for the agency into the funding. They're making an investment in us. That investment should have a return, both for our customers and for the government. And it was a very collaborative process. It wasn't as though TMF was coming to us with reporting requirements that we didn't co-author, that we felt were realistic to the timelines that we proposed. So from my experience as a TMF customer, for the proposal I worked most closely on, it was a very good conversation around how do we stay accountable to this investment that we're making.
It's fantastic. You almost sound like a business person, like on the commercial side. Wow.
We didn't even pay. I was not saying we didn't pay him, but we sort of do.
No, I have that guitar behind me, so I'm not a business person.
Yeah.
You start to sound like one. It's fantastic. Jesse and Rachel, Jesse, maybe you start off. How is this conversation go? It sounds like it's a little bit collaborative. It's not coming from Olympus. Here's what you have to report on, right?
Yeah, the goal is for it to be collaborative. I think the reality is, let's be clear, it's money from the federal government. You don't get to just get a magic pot of millions of dollars and not have to say anything to anyone. It doesn't work like that. And it doesn't work like that with your own agency either. And I one of the other things I want to underline for agencies and even vendors that are potentially working with agencies that are in the room is that often if these projects have not gotten funded, it means that their congressional justifications have potentially not been great, right? Like that there have been issues getting that money through the traditional budget processes. And so I think part of like, sometimes it's because it's not an agency priority, but there are other times that we're seeing as part of this collaboration that some of the staff are not used to making the case sort of more broadly about how does this work fit into the broader narrative of modernization at their agency or with broadly across the federal government. And so that's something that once we're engaging with an agency, we're looking towards is like, where does this fit in? How are they thinking? How is a given agency kind of playing into that bigger picture? And we're happy to help with that. So yeah, we have been working, whether you can talk to our customers about how successful, I think we are becoming increasingly successful at doing that in a more collaborative way. And we're open to using some of the other reporting tools. One of my favorite moments with the VA's other project was they invited me to a big review they did after they'd done a bunch of research, and they invited me to the report back from all of the different folks who had done that user research on what some of the results were. That wasn't formally part of the work, but it was a great way to see inside and then be able to say, oh, well, you have this report coming to the board. Let's pick like, here are 2 or 3 things that would be really interesting and helpful, rather than saying, I need you to do a separate, whole day for us.
Yeah, I remember when FTAR was passed and the CIO of USDA at the time, somebody was trying to justify their budget. They go, I have to justify my budget. I have to prove that it's actually going to work. And it was like, that's the reason they have the law, right? Rachel, you want to add anything? You're good? Okay. We have a question, real good question about you have to demonstrate savings. The reimbursement aspect there's different kinds of money that have come in and the color of money and all that. If you could, Jesse, maybe you can take a shot at that once to educate the folks here, because I see reoccurring confusion on it.
Yeah, there are a couple questions, and I saw Mark's question. Mark had, or it was there. It's not. Oh, there it is. Around repayment specifically. So I think there are a couple pieces. One that everyone should remember: repayment is statutorily required. So unless folks in this room are somehow lobbying for that to be changed in the statute, which based on my read is not going to happen, this isn't a thing that we get to make go away. This is the law. So that is like the state of play that we're dealing with. I think there are a couple important pieces. So one is that once the money gets to an agency, it becomes no year funds. We are looking to have that money spent in a given year because we're expecting an agency to deliver on whatever it is that they've committed to delivering, or a useful and justified pivot. But that money does become no year, and we might give an investment that the public announcement may say, for the sake of numbers, $10 million, but that could look like $2 million a year, so that a given agency knows that assuming that they are delivering, that they can expect, with that quarter, with that ongoing reporting, that they'll get money in the outgoing years, which with the budget process, you do not, because the whims of Congress are outside of all of the people in this room's control. And I think that's really important to validate. We're looking for your project to be successful, and we'd like to keep supporting it. And that's been one of our focuses. Did I miss anything in the answer to that?
I think you got it. Does anybody else want to add anything? We good? We got another question by somebody that's a vendor service provider. They've got the greatest thing in the world. An agency can use it. Can they go to an agency and say, I have this widget, it's going to digitize all your forms? Can they actually work with an agency and co-create how would they do that? How would they go to an agency? The agency says, oh, this is fantastic, let's apply for TMF funds. How would you suggest companies work to apply for TMF funds?
With the giant asterisk that I am not your lawyer, I'm not an agency's lawyer, and I trust everyone to follow appropriate engagement I think the places that we've seen vendor and agency collaboration be the most successful, firstly, it has to be an agency coming to us rather than a particular private sector vendor. And that's important for a couple of reasons. But I think most importantly, it's that the agency is the one who's dealing with the long-term service repercussions, whether whether it works or not. And a vendor may or may not be there. And that's just really important to keep at the forefront. That agency partner is who we're holding accountable to for this work. And so we're looking to them to be able to say, hey, we have a project. We think, we've had proposals come to us where they said, hey, we think we know what product we might buy, but the contract isn't awarded because we don't have the money for it yet. Or we know we're looking at a couple of products. That's lovely. And in those cases, I think it seems clear that there's been some vendor engagement with that agency. That's totally fine. It's just, we're not working with an agency because they are buying, pick your commercial product of choice. It's because the agency has been clear that they know what they're doing, why they're doing it, and therefore what some of their requirements are for working with whatever commercial products they're working with.
Another question I get from agencies is like, I don't even know where to start. And I know some agencies have been really good about this. Can't you request an agency to get access to their winning proposal? So you might be able to leverage that. I mean, I noticed some agencies are doing that. What is your take on that? I think that to me, that's like gets things moving at least, even though not everything's the same, right?
Yeah, so we have been, because agencies, we have built collaborative relationships where agencies have been candid with us. We want to honor that transparency. And so we will not share the actual written proposals because that often may contain some sensitive agency information, right? Like once we're pushing it public, we would never get agency proposals if they knew they could see the light of day in that way, or we would get fewer. So that said, just like your own personal health information, your agency proposal is yours to do with. So if a given agency chooses to share those internally, or someone goes to any of our investments, all of which are listed on the website, and say, hey, we'd love to see this, or can our budget officer talk to your budget officer? We've seen those collaborations go really well. We're happy to make introductions where it's been appropriate between teams. We're just not sharing the actual content, like written documents, because that's not ours to share in that way.
Gotcha. Yeah, just without asking. Kevin, we got a question. It's like, so you're making a decision, you go through your regular budgeting, you can still get a capital working fund. You could do that way too. You get your CFO to give you some money out of the capital. What made you choose the TMF? Was it easier? Did it make why did you use that lever to do what you did?
In this case, I think there were a couple of variables that made the TMF appealing. One, 21st Century Idea has been around for a while, and we've been really working to the spirit of that law. However, system owners over time, like I'm going to provide an example. So the two biggest forms, we'll call them systems, on va.gov are probably the 1010, which is the form you use to apply for healthcare benefits, and the 526, which is the form that a veteran uses to apply for a disability claim. Those two teams and associated teams for all the back-end processes associated with those forms, that's a massive working sustainment engine for each one of those and a lot of other systems. They are incentivized and are doing a great job of being performant in meeting the requirements of those particular benefits. But rarely are we given the opportunity to look across systems and from a user's perspective across systems and take what I would call a system design approach to making things easier for us to build and improve continuously. So that was one aspect of it that was appealing. The second aspect of it was for VA. I've been at VA for about 6 years, and I've been working in this role for about 4. And the entire time I've been here, one of the things I've been really excited about was the relationship between evolving standards in the form of the US Web Design System and 21st Century IDEA and guidance on it. Those standards should evolve as the private sector and technology evolves. AI is like, there's nothing in the standards about AI yet, or if there are, there's a lot of white papers, but there's nothing there. So those standards are going to continue to evolve. In order for agencies, which again, are really frontline with customers, to be effective, we have to have like an ongoing dialogue with the standards management, the folks managing those standards. And TMF gave us a chance to really pilot a way of working together with the US Web Design System team at GSA. And that's something that we've been looking for an opportunity to try for a while.
That's fantastic. We're getting closer to the end and the beginning. I think we got to a lot of the questions. Just maybe let's go to some final comments, something we've left on the cutting room floor that we don't want to leave while we have a few minutes. Rachel, why don't we start off with you? What are some of the other things while you've been down your journey that you think would be helpful to our audience?
Just, from my perspective, do a couple of things. One, my perspective as an investment manager, I work with agencies submitting proposals and in-flight investments every day, and it's always a collaborative relationship. I do everything I can to help these programs, make them feel comfortable both navigating the process, and if there are problems, we try to run an agile process. We support agile technology development. So whenever there are problems, the first step is to always talk to us. And then second is that we would always love to get more proposals, especially around the supporting 21st Century IDEA projects. We all the points that Jonathan brought up, we want to be there and meet people where they are and make sure that government benefits and services are more accessible and people can access them in the way that they want to or need to. So we're always looking for more agencies to submit proposals, which always just starts with a conversation. It doesn't have to be an intimidating, lengthy report writing process. Starts with a casual reach out, and we have a conversation about how whether the TMF process is right for that project.
Yeah, I just think back to the VA. I referred some folks at VA to you a while ago, and they weren't ready at the time. They weren't really ready to do this, and I just thought of it right now. Now they got ready. It took a few years, but that worked out fantastic. Jesse.
Yeah, I want to plus what Rachel said, and in particular, I think because to remain on my high horse about viewing a lot of these things as separate, I think one of the ways that agencies have built successful TMF proposals internally at their agency is by getting buy-in from other folks who they can help. And so one of the tricks that I've seen is that and challenges is that 21st Century IDEA work is never anyone's first priority, even if we think it should be, and even if the White House believes it. But there are a lot of competing, really intense priorities, and so it's sometimes hard to make the pitch that should be the thing. But there are very clear ways that I think it can be a useful part of a package. And so I would just say if there are agencies on the line or even vendors online working with agencies where they want to fold this in, but it's not the focus, that's okay. Like one need not sort of say we're doing all 21st Century IDEA to be able to get TMF investment. And in fact, it's in collaboration with some of your other program offices or technical teams that you might be more successful anyway, and being able to say, we'll do some of the heavy lifting of doing some paperwork may win you some friends. So just please continue reaching out, encourage folks to reach out and know that we're open to building some collaborative and creative proposals to make this, make it worth your while.
Yeah, Jesse, you're bringing up a great point. There's all these executive orders, the cybersecurity executive order, EO, and all these things. I always see the 21st Century IDEA. It's always on the list, but it might be toward the bottom of the list. That's the problem. And I think that I'm glad you brought attention. Kevin, any last words of wisdom for our audience?
Just that we're grateful, like, to both Rachel and Jesse's point in particular, in the internal dialogues we have around the work we prioritize and customer experience improvements that we choose to tackle with variety of funding. Sometimes CX by itself is not enough of a justification. And this opportunity really gave VA a chance to lead with that as the benefit, and then held us accountable to turn that into real outcomes. Yeah. So we're very grateful for the opportunity, and we're looking forward to doing the work.
Great, great. It'll probably help you in future projects. Thank you, Kevin, Jesse, Larry, Rachel. This has been terrific. And we have one more poll question. It's an easy one. If you want a CPE credit or not, we'll put that up there. There you go. All right. Thank you all. And we've got our next event, big panel on cloud security. And that's going to be on the 25th. So look forward to having you all on that. Looks really good. Anyway, everybody have a great day.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.